Hi, this is Marcel of Marcel on Tech, and today we are talking about, is it worth the upgrade? Do you know what I mean? Every year we're told that we should upgrade our phones to the latest technology, but I've been loving the Samsung Note 10 Plus. For the last 2 years I've had this device and it has not let me down. Now I have got the S24 Ultra and it is a pretty epic phone, but I want to talk to you about whether you should consider upgrading or not. Okay, so let's first and foremost take a little look at the design. So here we have the Note 10 Plus. So this has got the same screen dimensions as the very latest combination device, which is of course the S24 Ultra. So of course, let's look at the signature device. They both have the pen, as you can see, and obviously they are not cross-compatible. This pen doesn't work with the S24 and vice versa, but the sensitivity is very, very good on both. Now, obviously I can write and say, hello, subscribe. Please don't watch my handwriting. I actually can't really see what I'm writing here. That's fine. As you can see, it works really, really well for note-taking. But if we were to look at the same thing here, we say hello and subscribe. So the interesting thing is that they're both, the latency is a little bit slower on the Note 10 Plus, but really, who's going to notice? I mean, unless you are very, very finicky and paying very close attention, you're not really going to notice it, I have to say. So it really doesn't matter that much. Moving on, let's talk about the screen size. Now, both of these devices have got the same screen size, if I'm honest. Now, the difference is that the S24 has the flatter screen. So there's a little bit of taper towards the edge, but very, very little. They've basically phased out the waterfall edge that you get here on the Note. So you see where it goes around the edge. And a lot of people prefer, and I do have to say, I love the waterfall effect, but I do think there is something to be said for having a flat screen. Particularly applying screen protectors is an awful lot easier when you have a flat screen to apply to, because putting a screen protector on my Note is particularly difficult. But putting one on the S24 is very, very easy because it is a much flatter surface. So to look at the screens. Now, without getting into the technicals, because we really don't need to, they're both gorgeous. They both have QHD screens, but the resolution and the brightness of the S24 is going to be more. This goes up to 2,500 nits, but this goes up to 2,000 nits anyway, which is brilliant. Now, one of the key things that you will notice about the differences between these two devices is going to be the reflections. You can actually immediately see how little reflections there are on the S24 Ultra. And this technology is very cool. Where this plays out is obviously reflections, quite literally, but also in outdoors. And when I'm outdoors in very bright light, having the non-reflective screen is super helpful and really, really nice. But it is absolutely gorgeous on both. And it's still surprised, even when I'm testing some of these flagship devices, I'm still surprised at just how gorgeous the Note 10 panel is. And obviously Samsung are famous for their designs. Now, if we were to continue to look at the design of the device, I love how thin and light the Note 10 is. It really is very, very thin by comparison, if you look at the top here. Now, they look quite similar in thickness from above, but of course you can see how much more boxy the S24 Ultra is. And obviously a lot of people like that. It is good for gripping. It does get a little bit tiring when it digs into your thumb there a little bit, but otherwise they're both very boxy, very, very similar in dimensions, but the thickness is what plays a big part. And that is because the battery in the S24 is larger, but also it's more about the camera bumps, and they take up an awful lot of space and need space in order to do what they do. Although the camera on here is excellent, the zoom capability is not very good, or certainly not as good as the S24, but when taken with stills or at 1 ratio, then it's very, very good, very clear, but it's never going to be as good as the S24, particularly with the advances in both the lens and the software. So from a design standpoint, you can see that they've actually shifted the volume rocker and power button to the opposite sides. It should be on that side, but the camera bumps are in the same place. Just to let you know, this is actually a skin here on the back of it, which I really, really like, this reptilian blue. The color of the phone is actually black, but I can put a skin on it and redesign it all myself, which I really, really like. If you want more information about that, make sure you put a link in the description. If you want more information about that, make sure you put a comment below and I'll send you a link to this skin. It's really, really cool. Now, where the S24 has started to really streak ahead is the quality of video taken, and it really is very good. If you've seen any of my other videos, then you will see I've posted some of those already. I'll put a link to them. I'll include some videos here as well of a comparison. In fact, I will put a side-by-side comparison of both a video from the Note 10 Plus and from the S24 Ultra. The big difference is that this device will no longer be getting any more software updates. So where we are, that was the very last update that we got, which was security patch for August of last year. This can be one of the biggest weaknesses of these devices, in that this is no longer supported software-wise, but it still works extremely well. And as long as you're careful with your phone, you shouldn't have any major security issues. But it is always good to try and keep up to date with as much of the security updates as possible. And of course, we're running 6.1 UI on the S24. But again, the reality of it is most people who will use this device probably wouldn't even know the difference between the two phones, and they might not even recognize that they are completely upgraded Android systems, as well as the One UI system is also completely updated. So the difference in security does make a difference, in that you won't get any more security updates on the older device. Obviously, this is a particularly old device, but the S24 is going to get security updates for the next 6 years, which is really, really good and worth doing. But in terms of the feature set, I've got the original drawer here that the Samsung normally has, with this drawing up from the top and then swiping across. But using the app locker, then you can actually unlock the capabilities of the phone. And on my Note 10, I've been using this fantastic app for a long time now, which is Good Lock, which is an absolutely brilliant application, and it will work just as well on the S24 Ultra as well, because it's an app built and made by Samsung for Samsung, and it basically allows you to tweak your phone in any way you want, and that is truly awesome. So both of those work really, really well. If there are aspects from the new phone that I want to mimic in Good Lock, I can do that with this app built in or added to using the Good Lock app, which is absolutely brilliant. Now, one of the things I did want to talk about that was an update in 6.1 was the wallpapers. So the wallpapers app will allow us to create, using AI, whatever we want to create uniquely on the device. So it is a very cool system. So these are the ones that I've played with and had a go at before, but to create it, it is incredibly simple. So let's say I want to create a painting. I want to create it to be in a glacier. I want it to include parachutes, and I want it in the style of Baroque. We get it to generate, and this is AI. Now, of course, this is not included in the older devices. This is only in the newer devices. So this is where you get to set apart a little bit the quality. And you can see here what it's created are completely unique AI-generated wallpapers that you can keep for yourself that are seriously, seriously cool. I actually really like that one. So we might make that one our home screen, and we do that. Simple as that, and we're done. And so that has now created a very unique AI wallpaper that I think looks very, very clever indeed. So that is what sets apart. It's not the only thing, of course, because you've got an enormous amount of AI integration. One of the other aspects that I really enjoy is something called Call Assist, whereby a person can give you a call and you will be able to have a button on the top here that actually shows you to call assist if it's in a different language. So here in Spain, if I wanted to communicate with somebody who was calling me in Spanish, I could speak to the phone in English, and in real time it will transfer it into Spanish. Now it does tell the caller that it's going to do that. The Spanish is definitely not perfect, and a lot of times, particularly with spam calls where it's very useful, a lot of times they'll sign off straight away, which is hilarious and quite useful actually, to be honest. But if there are occasions when there's somebody you do want to communicate with, you can select the language that they speak, and then you can speak in your language and it will translate for them into theirs. And that is very, very cool indeed. So there are definitely strengths. Of course, you're paying over €1,000 for a brand new device that is like a computer in your hand, but is it worth spending all that amount of money when, if you need it for fairly purely perfunctory reasons, such as receiving phone calls, WhatsApp, all those other things, then it's going to make very little difference. Now, I did want to do a very quick app comparison for speed of opening. So we're going to go to some of these pages. So let's go ahead and go into, actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to clear all the apps first of all, running in the background, and then we're going to go to Instagram, see the loading speed. Right, okay. So after the images had actually loaded, pretty much almost identical. Very, very similar speeds there. And the scrolling, you've obviously got 120 Hertz on this screen, which makes it very smooth. But can you see the difference on the screen? Unless we slow it down, I'm not sure most people would be able to see the difference between the screen qualities. Let's do another app loading. Let's go to TikTok. That's very noisy. Okay, so there we have apps loaded, but the point was the app loaded up almost the same, a little bit faster as you would expect on the S24. Let's do another one. Let's do X. Loaded up fast, but still got spinning wheel. Refreshed, refreshed. There we go. So it's literally a split second, which is hilarious because, of course, this is a 4 years younger device than this one is. So really, that is quite a significant factor in the fact that the Note 10 Plus is still fast enough to stay up with the likes of the Snapdragon Gen 3 or 8 Gen 3, which is an amazing chip. But the reality of it is app opening, for example, which is what everyone does every day, is going to be almost the same speed. Nice. And in that case, look at that. Even this opened faster on the Note 10 than it did on the S24 Ultra, which is, of course, the Canva app for art creation. So it really is quite interesting to see them side by side and actually note that they are not necessarily as fast as each other. Let's go to ChatGPT in Finale. There we go. So split second behind, as you would expect. But if you weren't comparing them side by side, you wouldn't know the difference. So it really is testament to the quality of this phone. And I think that the revolution has not yet come, other than in foldable phones, which if you've been following me for a while, you'll know are fantastic and I really, really like them. These really aren't revolutions yet in the candy bar because there's still the quality from even 4 years ago still exists. So let's talk about our final thoughts and get into the next section. Okay, so we've looked at both of these phones in much more detail, and obviously what with comparing all the differences between them, from the screen quality to the camera quality to the images and the wallpapers, I have to say, I think the Samsung Note 10 Plus was way ahead of its time. It really is still a very nice phone. It is lightweight, it is quick. It's not as quick as this. We obviously know the S24 Ultra is going to be very, very rapid with the new Snapdragon CPUs. But does it make a huge difference to the average user? Not really. I mean, we've watched the loading speeds for some of those apps. You tell me what you think. Was it a fair comparison? I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. Obviously, please put a comment below. And obviously, this is a great device, but you're now paying for €1,200 for a device, and that's on a good price. That's a sale price, which is what I paid for this device. You're paying €1,200 for effectively a computer in your pocket, which is very cool. But I'd say 80% of the people who use these devices are not even going to use 80% of what it can actually do. So is it really worth upgrading? No. Are there hundreds of other devices that you can buy refurbished or secondhand from websites that I'll put links to in the description, because I'm a huge believer in refurbishing them? then these devices are not essential. And if you're looking to save some money, you can definitely do worse than picking up a Note 10 Plus or an S20 Ultra, whichever you prefer. They're going to be brilliant. You just have to enjoy the design and appreciate, obviously, the features that are built into it. Where the Note 10 Plus falls back significantly from the S24 is going to be the camera quality, particularly in stills and zoom, but this still has a really good camera. I still record most of my videos for YouTube on this device because the processing is good, the image quality is very high, it's 4K video, we've got 8K on here of course, but who's going to use 8K? Let's face it. So that's my roundup. I'd love to know what you thought. Slightly different format to my videos from normal because of the fact that I'm doing a comparison between new and old. And I really just wanted to highlight just how unnecessary it is to feel the urge to upgrade every single year. So if you don't have to, or if you can't afford it, don't force yourself. That's the most important thing. And don't forget to use the links below if you're looking for a second-hand device that's in great condition and for a great price. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you very soon in my next one. Bye-bye for now.